Hi, I'm Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make the Crochet Smart Cookie. This makes a great graduation gift for a high school or college graduate that you're really proud of. You can add all kinds of details, including this little tassel, the little diploma, and arms and legs. I'll show you each step of this project, I'll list all the supplies for you, and I'll give you some tips and tricks along the way. So let's get started. To make your Crochet Smart Cookie, I recommend using velvet yarn. It looks great for small stuffed animals and little amigurumi projects. I found this online and will include the link to this exact color and yarn type in the description below. It took me a couple tries to get the color I wanted, but I wanted a light tan, so it looked almost good enough to eat. And it doesn't have a lot of markings on this yarn, but you don't need a lot. And it's a nice, thick, good size velvet. I wouldn't say it's the thickest, but it's also not like baby velvet, which is really thin. So this is for my cookie base, and then I just found some dark brown that's in my stash, and this is just acrylic, Red Heart Soft. And then for the graduation cap, I wanted to use something a little thinner, so I'm using the Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. And this one does say medium weight, but to me it's a lot thinner than that. And it works up nicely and looks really good. Plus you can also use this black for the smile. And then for crochet hooks, you'll want an I or 5.5 millimeter hook and an E or 3.5 millimeter hook. You'll also need a yarn needle, a stitch marker, and some googly eyes. Now you can get regular googly eyes that are flat on the back at your local craft store and glue those on, or you can get these safety googly eyes that I found online. I'll put the link in the description below, and these work great as well. Remember, regular googly eyes wouldn't be safe for a young child, so even if you're not gifting this to a young child, but there's a young kid in the house, you might want to consider using these safety eyes. There are many optional supplies for this project, so I decided to make the arms and legs out of black pipe cleaners, so you'll want at least 2 of those. And I like to cut my pipe cleaners with pliers. If you use scissors, it will damage your scissors. In order to know how long, you'll want a measuring tape. And then for some of the other little details, I attach them with black sewing thread and a sewing needle, and I used a black button. These are buttons, small black button for the top of the graduation cap. And then I decided to use a small piece of white felt for the diploma, along with a very thin red ribbon. And I used some bright yellow embroidery floss to make the little graduation tassel. And then if you'd like to add a bow for a girl cookie, I have a thin pink ribbon, and you can also use this thin ribbon, red ribbon, also for a bow. One more supply you'll need is a small amount of polyester fiber fill, just to give your cookie a little stability on the inside. You could also use a circle of plastic canvas if you like. That would make it really sturdy. To make the Smart Cookie, we're going to make 2 pieces. One is the front, and it looks like this, and then the back. So we use the same pattern, we just stop early for this one, and we're going to fit it inside and sew them together. And because it's velvet yarn, you really don't see the stitching. You can see it a little bit, but it just looks like crochet stitches, and it's on the back. So I found that was the best way to make this because I wanted a nice smooth edge. Now working with the velvet can be tricky. You have to practice looking at your stitches and being able to find them. I also do a lot by feel. So I can feel, if you run your hand along the edge of the stitches, you can feel those two top loops and kind of the thinner part in the stitch where you're going to insert your hook. So I'm going to show you how to do this pattern with the velvet yarn, but first I'll show you with some yarn that's easier to see. And if you don't need to look at it this way, you can skip ahead and just look in the timestamp list below in the description, and you'll see where you can skip ahead to working with the velvet yarn. So this pattern will be the same whether you're using this yarn or the velvet yarn. You're going to do an adjustable ring, and I have a video just on that, but what you're going to do is wrap your hand with the yarn and then cross over, then put your hook through the loop you just made and grab the end of the working yarn. Then the trickiest part, you're going to pinch right there and get your hands ready to crochet, and then chain one to lock everything in place. And then we're going to work right in that ring and do 6 single crochets. Single crochet, hook in, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. So here I have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can count the V's stacked on top of each other. And then I pull the yarn tail to close up the center hole. And this is a great technique to use when making little stuffed things with crochet because it eliminates that gap in the center and your face or your project looks the best. So now we're going to work in a spiral, so we're not going to join with a slip stitch, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around for round 2. But I like to use the invisible increase method, so I'm going to show you how to do it here, and I show you again later with the velvet. Normally you would put your hook under both loops of the stitch right here. But I want to work only in the back loop for my first single crochet, and then I'm going to work under both loops. Here's that front one. Put my hook under both loops for the second single crochet. So I'm working 2 single crochets in each stitch around, but I'm putting the first one in the back loop and the second one under both loops. That helps prevent a giant gap. Now I'm using a large hook on purpose, so I do have kind of a big hole here, but if you use the velvet yarn and do this technique, you really won't notice any gaps that sometimes increasing can do. So you want to make sure that you're marking the first stitch of your round with your stitch marker. Sorry, I forgot to mention that when we were in the thick of it. And then I'm going to put 2 more single crochets in the next stitch and in the last one. So I should have 12 single crochets at the end of round 2. Okay, and it looks like that. Now I'm going to work increases again. I'm going to put an increase using the invisible method in the first stitch, and then just put 1 single crochet in the next. Then increase, then 1, increase 1. So we're spreading out the increases, but in order to have a nice flat circle, we have to continue to increase. So here we go, 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then just a plain single crochet in the next. 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then single crochet in the one after that. And you'll want to continue that pattern around. So here is the end of round 3, and you'll have 18 stitches. And now we're going to continue in the same way. We're going to increase in the first stitch, but then we're going to do a single crochet in each of the next 2. So we have 2 in here, then 1, 1, 2, then 1, 1. And we'll repeat that around, still using our invisible technique. So single crochet in the back and mark that first stitch before we lose our place. And then single crochet under both loops. And then 1 and 1. Again, back loop, single crochet, both loops, single crochet, and then 1 and 1. So continue with that all the way around. 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Here we've completed round 4, and you should have 24 stitches. And if you're working on the back of your cookie, then you'll fasten off, and that's all we do for the back piece, is just 4 rounds. But to continue on for the front piece, we're going to do 2 more rounds. So now we're starting round 5, and we're going to put an increase here, so 2 single crochets here, and then a single in each of the next 3. So we have 2, then 1, 1, 1, then 2, 1, 1, 1. And we continue with that pattern like we did for the other rounds. So my first single crochet in the back loop, and then under both loops. And then 1, 2, 3. And continue that again. Increase, back loop, then both loops, then 1, 2, and 3. Here we've completed round 5, and you should have a total of 30 stitches. Now we have one more round that's going to help our cookie bend at the sides. So round 6, we're going to remove the stitch marker, and we're going to change up the pattern of what we're doing. So we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and I'm going to mark the first one again with my stitch marker. Single crochet in the next 2. 1, 2. And now the next 2 stitches, we're going to do a single crochet 2 together. Now first I'm going to show you the traditional way of doing it, and then I'll show you the hidden way of doing it. So traditionally you put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, then you put your hook into the stitch after that, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. But it does give you these 3 big strands that are pretty noticeable in some of your crochet projects. So this is how you would do the same technique with a different stitch pattern. So you're going to insert your hook into the front loop only of the next stitch, and then insert your hook into the front loop only of the stitch after that. Still have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through just those 2, and then yarn over, pull through the remaining 2. And you see it looks different. We don't have the 3 strands, we just have 1 here and then the regular loop on top. And that's what we're going to do around. So we have a single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to do our hidden decrease. Put my hook in the front loop of the next stitch, and then in the front loop of the stitch after that, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And this is going to create the nice little curve on the edge of your cookie. So repeat this around, and you will have 24 stitches at the end. Front loop, front loop, yarn over, pull through those, then yarn over, pull through 2. Now my round 6 is completed. You could see how it starts to make my cookie curve up. And then to end this section of the project, I'm just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet, and that helps even out the side. And then I would cut the yarn about 10 to 12 inches and fasten off. So to begin our cookie, we're going to make an adjustable ring. You take the end of your yarn and wrap it around your non-dominant hand, then cross over the loop you just made, put your hook through the loop, and grab the working yarn and pull it through. And then, this is the trickiest part, I pinch it with my hand so I can get my non-dominant hand set up to start crocheting, and then I chain 1, and that locks this adjustable ring in place. And you're going to work 6 single crochets right in this ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, now working with velvet yarn can sometimes be tricky, but it also hides a lot of mistakes. So here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see the V's stacked on top of each other if you look carefully. And I recommend working in good lighting. Now we're going to take that yarn tail and we're going to pull it, and that'll tighten up that center hole and make it disappear. And we still have our 6 stitches. So we're going to be working in a spiral, and we're not going to do any slip stitch joins. So here is our first stitch right here. You can see both loops right there. Okay, now we're going to work increases every round to make a nice flat circle. And with projects like this, where the base of the project is the face of our project, I like to use an invisible increase. And again, I have a video on just this technique up there, but I'll show it to you here. So we're going to first, instead of inserting under both loops, I'm just going to put my hook under the back loop, and I'll do a single crochet as usual, and then I'm going to mark it with my stitch marker so I remember that that is the first stitch of my round. Then I'm going to put my hook under both loops and do another single crochet. And this way you won't get a big hole in your project. So I'm going to try that again. Put my hook into that back loop only and do a single crochet, and then put my hook under both loops. 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And this, you don't have to do this. You could just put 2 single crochets under both loops, and with the velvet yarn it would probably be okay. But it makes for a prettier project with less holes. And when it's the face of your project, you want to cover all those holes as best as you can. So we're going to end up with 12 stitches around. All right, and that's round 2 completed. So now we're going to do what you normally do for any kind of circle projects. We're going to continue to increase, but we're also going to stretch those increases out. So I'm going to put a single crochet in that back loop again, and then under both loops. So there's my first increase, and then I'm just going to work 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So we're going to do 2 in the next, 1 in the next, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way around, and we'll end up with 18 stitches. And I'm doing the invisible increase technique whenever I'm putting 2 stitches in there. So the back loop, then both loops, and then both loops when I'm doing just 1. Here you can see our rounds 1 through 3 completed, and now I'm ready to start round 4. I'm going to work it like round 3, but I'm going to put 2 single crochets in this stitch, then 1 and 1, then 2 in this one, then 1 and 1. So we're still increasing, but we're spreading it out. So put my first single crochet there, and then another one using both loops, then 1 in the next one, and 1 in the one after that. Back loop for my first single crochet, both loops for my second single crochet, then 1 and 1. Now don't worry if you don't have the exact stitches that I have. As long as your circle is coming out flat, not too roughly, and not cupping up too much, you're doing okay. If yours is starting to curl in, just add another increase. Somehow you might have skipped something by accident. And if yours is getting too roughly and too much like this, you probably have too many stitches, so you want to just try eliminating some. Here, 4 rounds are now complete, and we're going to do round 5. Round 5, we're going to put an increase, 2 single crochets in this stitch, then 1 and 1, 1 and 1, 1 in the next one. So increase, then single, single, single. Increase, single, single, single. And we'll do that around, and then we'll end up with 30 single crochets. So, back loop, stitch marker, then both loops. Then 1, 2, 3. Then back loop, then both loops for my next increase, then 1, 2, 3. And continue like that until you meet up with your stitch marker. Here we've completed 5 rounds, and we're on our last round for the front of the cookie. Now we're going to work 4 single crochets, and then we're going to single crochet 2 together, and it's going to help the shape of the cookie. So I'm going to put a single crochet in that first stitch and then mark it so I know where my beginning is, and do 3 more, 1 in each of the next 3. Now I'm going to single crochet 2 together, and I'm going to use an invisible decrease technique, or hidden single crochet 2 together. I'm going to put my hook into the front loop of the next stitch and put my hook into the front loop of the stitch after that. So now I have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through those, and then yarn over, pull through 2. And then I'll just do single crochet in the next 4, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to do my hidden decrease. Hook into that front loop of the next stitch and into the front loop of the stitch after that, yarn over, pull through both, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And see how my cookie is starting to curve in? That's what I want. And then here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next 2. Hook into this front loop, hook into this front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And continue like that around, and you'll see you start to have what looks like a yummy cookie. So here I have completed round 6, and it's curving inward, and I'm going to make sure that it turns and curves outward, just like that. So you should have something that looks like this for the front of your cookie. So now I can cut a nice long tail, maybe 10 to 12 inches, because I'm going to use that to sew up the cookie. And what's nice when you work in a spiral like this is just that first stitch of the next round, just do a slip stitch in that. And that helps close up the gap, and you don't have a high place. They meet up nicely. So you're going to set that aside, and to make the back of the cookie, we're going to do the same thing, but just work 4 rounds and then fasten off. Here is our cookie back completed. It's just 4 rounds of what we did earlier, and you'll see that this fits right inside what we made before. And this will be the back of the cookie, and we're going to sew it together with the same color. But before we do that, we're going to work on some of the details. So we're going to set that aside for now, and we're going to make the cap. So our next step is going to be to make this graduation cap, and we're going to crochet a band and then sew it to this square, and then put it all together when we put our cookie together. So I used, as I said earlier, this Line Brand 24/7 cotton, but it's very hard to see the stitches with that, so I'm going to use 24/7 cotton in a different color. So for the band of the hat, you want to put your slip knot on your hook, and then you're going to chain 17. And of course, we're using the smaller E 3.5 millimeter hook. That works better with this thinner yarn. And now I'm going to work in the back bar or back bump of the chain. I'm going to skip the first chain, insert my hook in the back bar, and do yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Just single crochet. I'm going to single crochet in each chain across. I'm coming up on my last stitch, last chain, and there I have 1 row of the band completed. Then I'm going to chain 1, turn, and I'm going to work a single crochet in each stitch across, working under both loops to create a simple cap band. And that's it for the cap band. So you're going to have 2 rows, each with 16 single crochets. I'm going to cut off a nice long tail so I can use it to help me make the cap later. And so you'll make yours in black, or whatever color your graduate has. When I graduated, I wore a white cap, and I know other people have worn blue. So you could do whatever color you like. Next, we're going to make the top of the cap. So same thing, put your slip knot on the smaller hook, and you're going to chain 9. And now we're going to work single crochet in the chain across. We're going to skip the first chain and insert our hook into the second chain, and you don't have to go in the back bump. just single crochet across. So you have 8 single crochets. And we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch across. So far we have this, and we're going to repeat till we have a total of 8 rows. So just chain 1, turn, and single crochet across. Here I've completed my 8 rows of single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to work single crochet around these 3 sides. Just insert your hook into the side of each row, find a loop there. And this gives it a nice finished, clean edging. Just want to make sure that your single crochets are evenly spaced. Doesn't matter how many there are. Go all the way across to the corner, like so, and then chain 1, and then you can go in that same stitch at the corner and in each. This is the bottom of the chain, so we can just go in each chain across, like so. So you'll continue that when you get to the corner, chain 1 and go to here, and then I'll show you what you do at the end. I've gone around these sides, 3 sides only. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to slip stitch right into that first single crochet of the next side to complete the square. And I'll cut a nice length because I might want to use that to help me sew it on later. We'll see. So for the cap, you should have this band, 2 rows of single crochet, and this square that will be the top. And here I have it in the magenta color, but you could also make it in black. Just harder to see the stitching on the video. So now that we have all the pieces finished, we're going to put the Smart Cookie together. And there are a bunch of different options of how you can embellish it. So for a little check for you, your cookie should be about 3 inches across. Of course, you have the part that's going around the side, but the front face of your front cookie part should be about 3 inches, and your back piece is about 2.5 across. Now we're ready to start adding the details. I found it helps best to first add the eyes. These are 15mm eyes, and you can just use my photo as an example. So here is that center circle, it's right here. So I'm trying to put the eyes just a little bit above round 1. But you can experiment. Depending on where you put the eyes kind of changes the look of your cookie. So here they're a little bit closer than my original, but that's cute. And since these are safety eyes, you can put the washer on the back. I find these work better upside down. Sometimes you're supposed to do them this way, but sometimes I have a hard time doing it the other way. So. And again, this is not going to be given to a young child, so these should be good. But if you want to learn how to make safety eyes super secure, especially if they're smaller ones, I have a video tutorial on that. And next I'm going to put the mouth on. So I found that putting the eyes in the mouth first helps you kind of figure out where everything else should go. So I'm going to use some of that black yarn, and I'm going to work right along this edge of round 1. You can see round 1 right here. So I'm going to put my needle up through this side, and then I want the smile to end even with this. So I'm going to put my needle down through the other side of the mouth. And then I just kind of experiment and see what I like. I think I like it to look like that. So now I'm going to go up through the project and come out in the middle here of the mouth. And I'm going to put a tiny little stitch locking the mouth in place like that. You can barely see that tiny little stitch. You can do another one if you like. And then what I like to do on the back is tie the ends of this black yarn into a double knot. Just be careful, you don't want to pull it too tight because you could affect how the mouth looks. And since I tied it in a double knot and it's going to be on the inside, just trim those so they're not in the way. And there we go. Now I have my eyes and mouth. And I think I'll do the same thing for this end here. Guess I should have done it before I trim those, but I'm going to tie this yarn tail from the velvet also into a knot. That just helps keep everything secure so that adjustable ring doesn't come loose. Now we're going to add the chocolate chips. If you have a dark brown velvet, you could do that. I liked the look of having a different type of yarn, different type of fiber. And you can use my photo as a guide, but I just put them randomly around the outside and then maybe one or two right here close to the eyes and the mouth. And this is, remember, I'm going to be having the hat over here, the graduation cap. So I want to kind of leave this area blank because it won't show. We'll be covering it with the hat. So I can put one right here, and all I do is I'm going to tie that yarn tail later, so I'll just hold it in place, and I'll go across my stitches like this and do another one maybe about the same length. And now I just try to make it random. So I'm going to go across and back over this way, because if you use chunks in your chocolate chip cookies, or even if you use chocolate chips, they melt and don't come out perfectly round. So just making a couple stitches like this, trying to make them all evenly taut, and maybe one back over the top of all of them. And there we go, that's it. So there's one, and then I can put another one maybe over here. And you'll just want to continue like that around your whole cookie. You can change the angle so they're not all facing the same way. Looks just more natural, more random. And you can make them as big or as small as you like. And there we go. So you'll repeat that as many times as you want. This one here, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the front, and you'll also want to put a few on the back. So that would be on your smaller circle. All these things are easier to do before you join them together. Here are my chocolate chips completed, and I will tie a double knot in the two yarn tails. And cut off the excess. So now we're ready to add the arms and legs if you'd like. I decided to use pipe cleaners because when I experimented with crocheting them, it just didn't look right. And the pipe cleaners is really quick, and you can bend them so you can have them hold something. So we'll make this, I'll show you how to make this little diploma, and by using pipe cleaners you can bend the arms and bend the legs into whatever positions you'd like. So that's what I liked about the pipe cleaners. And again, we're not going to be washing this. So let's do the arms and legs. To make the pipe cleaner arms and legs, you'll need 2 black pipe cleaners, and I like to use my pliers to cut them. And I'm attaching them with some black thread and a sewing needle. So they're actually about the same size. So I'm going to cut 4 lengths of about 3.5 inches. And what you could do is the first one I know is 3.5, so then I can just use it as my template. You can use scissors to cut pipe cleaners, but then the metal inside can ruin your scissors. So I like using the pliers for this step. And you want to be careful when you cut pipe cleaners. The tips have a little piece of metal. So what we're going to do for the feet is we're going to fold over about 1/4 inch, and that helps to hide that pointy end, and we'll fold over again, and that creates the foot, and then bend it up, and we have this cute little foot. And then you can decide how long you would like your leg, but I think, let's see, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches is nice. And then all the remainder I bend at an angle. And you can do that after we put it inside the body or before. And I'll show you how we put those in. So I'm going to do the other one, 1/4 inch, and then maybe 1/2 inch to create the foot. And again, of course, they're going to go into the body like so. Alright, and you can adjust the length. And then for the arms, we're going to do something similar, but just smaller. So fold over a very small edge, and then fold over again. So you just have like this little furry hand. And same thing, we'll bend that. This bend on the inside of the body will help stabilize these little hands, arms, and legs. Okay, so we have the little hand here, and I want to make it kind of the same length as the other one. Okay, and again, I can adjust it as I see how it looks on my project. So now I'm ready to put the arms and legs on. So the arms, I kind of want level with the middle of the mouth, and I'm going to put them right between round 5 and round 6. Put them like that, and you can decide. So on the inside where it's bent, I'm going to lay it across, and you can either do it going up or going down. I think I'm going to actually do it going up. And then I take my sewing needle and sewing thread, and I just go right into the velvet yarn and whip stitch around that folded over edge of the arm. And I'll do that on all 4. Now you could use fabric glue here or a hot glue gun. It's just sometimes with the hot glue gun it squeezes through on the other side of your project, and you don't want it showing up. So there we go. I think that's about a good length because I'm going to curve this one over to hold the Diploma. But if you need to make it a little bit shorter, you can just make the hand a little bigger. And now I have a shorter arm. So lots of things you can do quickly and easily with the pipe cleaners. So I'm going to do that for the other arm. And I'll do the same thing for the legs. And I want to go kind of down from the center of the mouth and then over a little bit. And just insert it right through the stitching with that folded part inside, right like that. And I'll sew that in place. And again, you can decide where you want to put these. You can experiment. You can have them far apart like that, or we can put them real close together. You just want to use the center of the mouth as a guide for the center of the body. And insert that other arm over here. Try to keep it in line with the first one I put in. And there you go. So I'll sew those in place and we'll do the rest of the details. Now we're ready to put the pieces of our cookie together. So I'm going to slip the back piece in like this, and actually I'm gonna turn it so this yarn tail is on the side. And I'm going to use the yarn tail and pass through the top of the stitches here on the front piece and then through the top of the stitches on the back piece. So under both loops on both pieces. You see right there? This is just a whip stitch, but the velvet hides all kinds of things like this. Cut the arm in there. And I'm going to go halfway around, or as long as this yarn tail will take me. See, you can't really even see. That's why I love using velvet yarn. It's one of the reasons I like it, for using it for little stuffies like this. And now that I've come to the end of this yarn tail, I'll just tuck it inside, because this other one I can tie a knot with it. And that's enough to start stuffing. And you just need a little bit of polyester stuffing. Now at the beginning of the video I mentioned that if you want to add some stability, you could put some plastic canvas in here. You can buy plastic canvas that's round and you can just trim it to the size that you need. So you could put that in. See, I don't even need that much. Very small amount. Alright, so now I just complete from the other side. Just make sure that I don't have gaps in my stitching, and I'll finish going around, joining both pieces like so. I've gone around, sealed everything up, and to end it I like to just knot the yarn tail and then go through the middle like that. Carefully cut off that excess. And there we go. And of course you could make this without the graduation cap, and you could glue on or sew on a loop or a keychain ring. And you could give it just like this, cute little smart cookie, or again, you could buy charms or something small at the store and loop it on here. So maybe a little basketball or a baton or all kinds of things to make it special for whoever you're giving it to. So let's add the hat. So I'm going to do it with our pink pieces so you can see what I'm doing. So I just use my yarn tail again. So I'm going to sew the short ends together so I can bring them around. It's going to create the band of the hat. And again, just my trusty whip stitch here. Like that. And now I have this part that I'll move the seam to the center back, like so. And we're going to attach it to our cookie. Now if you'd like, you could pin this in place. I kind of just eyeball it. You can do right in the center if you want. I thought off to the side is a little cute. And I'm going to use these yarn tails to just sew it on like so. Put it through the cookie and then up through the band. And just make sure that it's looking even and like I like it. You could use sewing thread here too if you want. I just like to use the yarn tails, one less thing I have to weave in, and I know it'll match perfectly. So continue around the bottom edge. So continue going around, and then we're going to add the top, like so. For the top, I decided to add a small black button right in the center. I picked these up at Hobby Lobby, and I thought that would just finish it off nicely, but it also would give me a place to attach the tassel. And again, if you want to like swap the tassel out and do different tassels, then you can just loop it on and you don't have to sew it on. And I decided to sew this top on with the sewing needle and sewing thread as opposed to the yarn tails. So I'll show you how I did that. So before we add the top, I added a little black button right in the center. This way I could hang the tassel on, and you can swap out the tassel if you'd like for different occasions. I thought this was a nice finishing touch, so I sewed the button on with some sewing thread. And another thing I thought would be cute is, you know how everybody likes to decorate the top of their cap. You could take a photo of your graduate's cap once they've decorated it, and then reduce it down on your computer, print it out, and glue it on to here so it matches theirs. Or you could add the year, 2025, or the high school name, or the college name, or college colors you could put on top. Just be creative if you want to do those kind of things to make it personalized. So you're going to take your square, it's kind of a rectangle, but it works, and I want to make sure that the button's in the center, and then I have the points on either side, and then a point right here in the middle. And you can pin it in place. I'm using the sewing thread. Obviously you'd want to have matching sewing thread, but maybe so you can see here. And I'm just picking up stitches on the top and stitches in the band, and going to work around the whole square. I'm going to turn the arm down so I don't keep catching it. And I can just check my work, but I want to make sure 2 points are going to the side, and then I have 2 points going towards the back. And next, let's make the tassel. So to make the tassel, this is really small, and you can even buy small tassels at your local craft shop if you would like to make it quicker. So I just take my 2 fingers and wrap some of this yellow embroidery floss around a bunch of times, like so, and pull it off so I have this loop here. And I'll cut the bottom off. And I've already cut this other length of the matching embroidery floss, and then I'm going to tie a knot around it as close as I can to the top. This can be a little tricky. Like so. And make it nice and tight and do another knot. And then those 2 tails become part of your tassel. And then I just trim the bottom. See where the bottom has been looped around. Just cut that off. Sharp scissors work well for this. And there you go, just a tiny little tassel, approximately the same size. And to finish off the tassel, I take my black thread and I go through the top of the tassel like so. You could use yarn here too. I just want something really, really thin. And then I tied a knot. But I just want to see how long I need it. So I want the tassel to hang down right at the edge. So you can adjust this easily by just tying in a knot again. So once I have the knot, I just slide it over the button, just like you would on a real graduation cap. And I trim off the excess, or you can use that excess and your needle to just secure this. I sewed it on so it wasn't going to fall off. So we're almost finished. If you'd like to make a little diploma, you can crochet this out of white yarn or thin thread, but when I did that it just looked a little too bulky, so I decided to make mine with about a 1 1/4 inch square piece of felt, very easy to cut out, and roll it up like so. And again, you can have fun with this. You could use a piece of cardstock and invite your graduate to open this. And you could put a message in there or a mock diploma, which would be really cute. A message I think would be really sweet. Fold it up and then just take some thin, this is super thin red ribbon, got it at my local craft store. Again, you could pin this in place while you tie it. And I just tie 1 knot and then another. Cut off the excess so it looks like a diploma. Easy. And you could glue this in place or sew it in place. And by folding over the arm, it holds it nicely. And then if you want, you could add a little bow tie with a little ribbon tied in a bow, or you could add a cute little hair bow somewhere up here like that. And one finishing touch is you can use a piece of the yarn. I think the cotton black yarn would look great, and just sew or glue on a hanger to the back if you'd like the person you're giving it to be able to hang it from somewhere. But with the bendable legs, you can make them sit down. You just have to put something behind it to support it. So I hope you enjoyed making the Crochet Smart Cookie. I hope you enjoy gifting this to a graduate you know and love. Let me know who you're making it for in the comments below, or if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Happy crocheting!